Okay, so welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be doing my first POV drive of, well, just in general. Obviously going to be using the 2018 Hyundai I30N. I'm using a GoPro Hero 8. I've just set it up, so hopefully all the settings and everything are looking all right. You won't obviously see this if it's not, but yeah, this is my first time doing this, so it'd be nice. I'm just going to go for a relatively quick drive, just to see how the camera fares, to be honest, but also to give you an idea of what the car's like to drive from an actual, you know, in the driver's seat perspective. Hopefully you can see the gear stick and everything like that. That's what I'm going for anyway. So fingers crossed that works fine. I have already had a little play with this just to figure out if the windows mess with the audio and stuff like that, so hopefully it should be all good. If not, I apologise. But yeah, so I'll chat a little bit about the car, I guess. So we've got a 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine, 275 horsepower from stock. This one does have an induction kit on it though, all the way from the turbo down to the open air intake. So probably pushes it to around 300 or close to it, according to Forge anyway, which is where the part's from. I'm also going to get it tuned at some point, which will push it 320-ish, hopefully 320, 330 roughly. But yeah, stock is 275, which to be honest is already enough. I'm just like, I like doing things to them, make them a little bit more interesting to talk about. But yeah, so obviously front wheel drive through our 6-speed manual gearbox here. Jesus. Yeah, so at the moment I'm driving in my N custom mode, which is well, I mean, you've got normal mode, which is day-to-day driving. Sport mode you probably won't ever touch. Eco mode, obviously, for long motorway miles and stuff like that, for getting better mileage. And then you've got the standard N mode, which Hyundai preload the car with. And then you've got an N custom mode, which you can control through this screen here. Obviously, if you press N mode, you can control everything from the way the steering feels to how you know, responsive the throttle is, how the suspension works, all of that, to set it in your own custom mode. My custom mode is literally just the standard N mode, the Hyundai preload, but with softened out suspension, just because the N mode would be better on a track, because obviously you get slightly better 0 to 60 times with the stiffer suspension, but on the public roads you don't really want that because it's just uncomfortable, to be completely honest, so I won't be using that. But yeah, the N mode's good obviously because you can have that switchable exhaust. So I've got the Sport Plus exhaust mode on, which means it's much more aggressive and it pops and bangs, which I like. So that's why I've got it in that mode, obviously, for the moment. It doesn't do much for the fuel consumption. I average 22.9, so you can get an idea of, you know, I mean, it's not a cheap car to run, to be completely honest. And obviously because it's got bigger brake pads, bigger brake discs, thinner tyres, bigger tyres, the consumable, you know, the things that burn out basically are all going to be more expensive as well. So you've got to budget for that, really. It's not just the initial cost of the car, it's keeping it running day to day, especially with petrol prices at the moment. You know, it's debatable whether you'd want to do that, to be completely honest. Yeah, so obviously because it's got stock anyway, it's got about 30-40 less horsepower than something like a Civic Type R. It's not as good, it's not a drag racing car necessarily, it won't be as good in a straight line. Obviously once I've done my stuff to it, it will be the same as a stock Civic Type R, but at the factory this will struggle in a straight line against that. So this is more fun out the corners, you know, on the back roads basically, where the where it can launch out of corners and stuff like that. It's very good at keeping the car always on boost. You can hear it as well. I mean, I'm not sure how well this camera picks it up, but you know, about if turbo kicks in about 2.5 and it just stays. So, and it's also got electronic protocols running in the background to keep that turbo spool up while you're changing gear and stuff like that, to maximize the time you're on boost. And it really does make a difference, because You know, if around the back roads, you're almost always on boost, meaning you can fly out the corners. So that really is where this car shines. Obviously, it's I mean, in my experience anyway, it's very good in a straight line as well. Obviously, it's not going to be if you've driven McLaren before or something stupid like that, but for something in this price range and this engine size, you can easily, you know, it will be good enough for public roads in a straight line. So you definitely don't have to worry that you're not getting as much as other people. It's not going to make too much difference in reality. My favourite thing, to be honest, coming from a Golf GTI, I don't know if the newer ones have it now, but the one I had didn't. Is the rev matching. So you can push this button here, though you can't turn it off in custom mode because I've got it set to be permanently on, but it will obviously, if you watch my rev counter as I go into third, it will rev up for me, so I don't have to do that. Obviously you do in a normal manual. It just means I can spend more time thinking about other things apart from if the engine's at the right revs. And it sounds nice as well, and it does it all for you, which is very nice. If you adjusted it in the settings, you can turn it off if it's something you don't like, and if you're in a normal mode, you can literally turn it off and on just through the button. So it is customizable, but to be honest, I can't see why you wouldn't like it, because it just makes the process much, you know, much nicer, to be honest, and it makes downshifting especially much easier, which you obviously do on a well, very often. So in the N mode, the rev matching is much more aggressive. It's in Sport Plus again, as they call it, so it revs up quite high to make sure that if you're about to mash it down somewhere, that you've got that power behind you. Obviously, if you're in the normal mode, it will rev match. Not when it's not on, but if you turn it on, it will rev match, but nowhere near as much. It will jump up a little bit to give you a hand, but it's not like you can just drop the clutch. Whereas in custom mode, obviously you still shouldn't, but should you need to, you can be much more violent with the clutch, and because the revs are higher, it will obviously be a little more forgiving for you there, which is always very nice. Yeah, so as far as the suspension goes, obviously you can soften it up in the custom settings, but at the moment it's in its comfort setting, as they call it. But it's not I mean, it's not comfortable, but it's not Mercedes luxury style comfort setting at all. You can still tell it's built for a sporty purpose, and it's, you know, you still feel those bumps, I'll tell you that much. It's not, you know, it's not going to be gliding over any potholes, so it's still not, if you're after something that's, you know, properly comfortable day to day, then to be honest, you're looking in the wrong place, because this is much more built for, well, it was built on the Nürburgring, so yeah, they didn't really take that into account as much. But that's what you're getting yourself in for if you buy something like this. So yeah, but it's definitely still not a massively comfortable car. If you'd opted for the winter pack, you get heated seats and a heated steering wheel. I don't have that because I can't afford that, but yeah, obviously that is an option anyway. You've got buttons down here to turn off your auto start stop, which I have because I don't like it doing that. It makes it slightly slower to pull away from junctions. I don't know if you can hear the pops and pangs, but obviously you can also turn that off, obviously, in the custom mode. It's how custom it is, but I can show you quickly here. But obviously you get your torque, turbo and power and everything dials as much, but if you go into custom here, you can change the engine, rev matching, ELSD, the exhaust sound, and then suspension, steering and ESC. So almost all the major factors anyway, and you can customize them, and you can play around with any combination of normal, sport or sport plus of these, and it's amazing really when you click a button how quickly that affects. You can feel it in the car, especially steering and stuff. It proper softens up or toughens up whatever you do to the steering. So it's not like it's a fake screen as such. It definitely does make a difference to the car, which is nice. It gives you a sense of, especially in this price range, I don't believe that normally really happens. So it's quite nice to have that type of customization. Obviously some others don't have. You've got Geforce dials here and a performance timer. You can set you can track 0 to 60s and also do lap timers and stuff like that if you're on the track. which, I mean, obviously in this budget may sound stupid, but this car was built on a track. It's got stiffening, it's got roll cages in the back for that purpose. So Civic Type R is apparently, I can't imagine what it's like, but apparently is going to be quicker than that in a straight line. But as you can see, straight up to 120, you've got no problems doing high speed if that's what you want to do. Personally, obviously it's nice every now and then, but I think I much prefer going around back roads and launching off roundabouts. I think that's much more fun. But if you want to, it will shoot straight up to 100 and it will sit there quite happily. It will sit there on the motorway in 5th at the moment, but it will sit there in 6th on the motorway quite happily if that's what you want to do. So while it may not have massive power numbers, it can do, especially for public roads, it can do, you know, speeds that you should be happy with, basically. So it's always nice to know you've got, it's a nice all-rounder. It's a good, you know, it's good for good enough anyway for dailying. It's nice and comfortable. Compared to a McLaren or something anyway, which is going to be obviously much faster in every aspect, but almost impossible to use daily. This is not like that. It's a nice thing. I drive this to work and back every day, you know, 30 miles every day, and it's fine on the motorways. It's brilliant everywhere, and you get that nice bit of, it's just an all-rounder. And if you want to have fun with it, obviously you can, and if you want to stick it in eco mode and do 200-300 miles on the motorway, you can as well. You're not going to have any problem doing either, which is brilliant really, and it's what you want if you can't afford. Obviously the ideal thing is to have a standard Golf and then have something else to use as your toy, but if you can't afford that or don't have space for that, then this is a brilliant all-rounder. You know, 5 seats, enough space for, well, 5 people, yeah, 4 people comfortably, definitely 5 people technically. Decent boot. I can't spit any numbers at you, I don't know that, but definitely a decent enough boot size for most things you'd want it for. The inside is up for, you know, the interior, sorry, is a bit, these are, you know, they're not leather. This is leathery stuff, but this is all scratchy plastics. But as a lot of other people have said, this car is built more to have a decent amount of performance at a good price range, so they have cheaped out on some things, you know, one of them being the interior quality in some places. So I'm sure a Golf GTI is quicker, nicer inside, and the quality of the materials used might be better, but hence the extra 5-10 grand you have to pay. So it depends. If you decide that that's worth it, then obviously, yeah, Civic Type R, Golf GTI, Golf R may be better for you. But if you don't mind a little bit of a compromise, bit more money in your pocket and the same performance, then that's really the market this car was built for. So yeah, and I think that's a perfect, that's a Fiesta. I can't say much. I had a decat Golf before this as well, so we've all got our own stupid little things. But I'm going to try and find some back roads out there somewhere so I can show you a little bit of what it's like to drive around some tighter country roads. It's a joy, to be honest, but it's always nice to be shown, I suppose. I'm not sure how the audio comes out, if you can hear much of the engine, but trust me, it does sound very nice. It's nice that they've put in some proper time and effort into making that sound nice, because I feel like, again, I'm speaking from experiences from what I know, but it was 2006, don't get me wrong, it wasn't 2018, but I had a Golf GTI before this, and out of the factory, it's not something you'd rev up at a light. It didn't sound very good, to be honest, and that encouraged me to decat it, which obviously means it doesn't pass MOTs, and it encourages you to do this stupid stuff because you want it to sound better. But this doesn't really leave much to be desired in that aspect, because I mean, obviously if you decat it, it would be deeper, it would be louder, but it pops enough for anyone, and it sounds very good, I think, especially from a little 4-cylinder engine. It's not, remember, it's not a V8, so to be producing this sound from this engine is impressive, and it's nice that they've put some time into that, because I feel like some other companies haven't. Again, I can't speak for the new GTIs, although I have heard them, you know, speed past at points, and they don't seem to make a whole lot of noise, to be honest. And if they do, it's nothing compared to this. I mean, you know, so obviously I am biased because I've spent my own money on this and this is my daily, but I'm also speaking from a little bit of experience, so I'm hoping the camera angle is okay. Otherwise this is all wasted footage. Hoping you can see the gear stick and stuff like that, because obviously it'd be nice to get those little bit of rev matching in. Yeah, I'm not sure how well the camera's picking up the audio, but there are better videos on YouTube with people with better quality mics that will show you how this car sounds. All you have to do is search up I30N exhaust and you get hundreds of them, because that's exactly what I did before I bought the car. So I know they're up there, so if you want a better idea of what it sounds, maybe that's better, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of what it's like to use day to day. Obviously we do have a standard cruise control system here, set it the same as I assume every other car. You've got a button for lane assist down here, which will obviously uses cameras to look for the white lines, and then it will keep you between that. For roads like this, it's not going to be very useful, and you shouldn't need it anyway, because you should be paying attention enough to not have to use it. But on the motorway, it is not necessarily a system you'd want to rely solely on, and you wouldn't want to be taking your hands off for too long. I mean, it will beep at you anyway, but you wouldn't want to. But it's definitely a good assist, obviously, if you decide to look at another car out the window next to you, it will stop you from going out of your lane, and it will, if it can't stop you, it will beep at you, which is effectively a safety feature, and it's quite nice to have, especially on long journeys. Cruise control, lane assist makes those journeys much more tolerable than having to, you know, sit wide awake for 7 hours on the motorway. So it's all nice features there. Yeah, so that's all very nice. The infotainment system is quite good, I say. To be honest, I don't actually use it that much, because I tend to use, well, I have an iPhone, so I've got a wireless Apple CarPlay dongle, so I tend to use the wireless Apple CarPlay, but I can't see the traffic light, because that just works better for me. And you can have Google Maps, you can have Spotify in there, so as good as this system is, and don't get me wrong, it is good, I just, you know, there's nothing much that can beat, you know, a system where effectively it's being powered by your phone. So you can, if you have it, I don't have at the moment, but if you can press this button on here and it will start Siri or Google or whatever you're using, and you can just say, you can read out messages, you can type messages to other people, accept calls, make calls, and obviously I'm sure a lot of you are aware, but it's just, in my eyes, it kind of renders these manufacturer systems a little bit pointless, because it's almost like a skin you use to get to the CarPlay, for me anyway. So depends what you do. But the sat-nav as well is almost sad, because it is a very good sat-nav. I've used it a couple times and it's very good. But because I like having the Spotify integration and everything like that, I tend to use CarPlay more. That's just how it is. Now I am quite close to London here relatively, so the roads, it's quite hard to get any nice back roads with a decent surface. I'm sure, as you can see by the state of this, it's absolutely disgusting, and you have to sit directly in the middle of it to have any type, you know, to be going over 40, because otherwise it's just bumpy. I'm sure you can see by the way the car's shaking. It's not a nice road to go down. You wouldn't want to be going much faster out than this. It takes a while before you really have to know the area to find a single nice, and when I say nice, I just mean tolerable back road. So this isn't the best example, and I apologize for that. There'll be videos in the future, hopefully, where I take it further up north, where these roads are much nicer and there's much more of them. But yeah, around here I don't have a lot, unfortunately, so this is really the best it gets. Well, past this they get a bit better, but not much, to be honest. And yeah, so they're not lovely, unfortunately. But and vans that sit in the middle of the road, and then you get lovely blind junctions like this, so that's nice. It's actually not too bad coming from this way. I normally come from the other way. But yeah, I'm not sure how you can, but obviously you've also got this effective like rally dial at the top here, which tells you when you should be shifting up, or a recommendation anyway, which means you don't always have to be looking at your rev counter, which is quite nice. Just lets you go that much faster while you don't have to be staring at your rev counter to see you're not going to be hitting the limiter anytime soon. It goes white, yellow, or white, green, yellow, or something along those lines, and then it will flash red when you're just about to hit the limiter, and you can see it in your peripheral vision. You don't have to be looking at it, which just makes it that much easier to drive near the red line without having to stare at your the actual rev counter. Which again, I'm sure most cars of this age have, but I'm just pointing out things that are new to me. It might be a basic to you lot, but not for me. You've got buttons on the steering wheel here as well to change your display. There isn't too much to change on there, to be honest. It's very, especially the rev matching is very useful on these back roads where you don't want to have to be flapping about with different pedals. Yeah, there's still not an overly nice surface, but meeting Battery Boy here. But yeah, this car is brilliant around these little back roads. It's really where it shines. And unfortunately, we are now stuck behind a Tesla, so no more fun for us, because he's probably trying to increase his range, which is an incredibly boring thing to be doing. But oh well. Each to their own, eh? But yeah, hopefully the camera's still alive. The battery life isn't very good on these things, I'm told, so I'm not sure how much life I've got left in it. But yeah, as I mentioned in my review of this in the previous video, the turning circle while you're stationary or going slowly is actually horrendous, but that obviously translates to when you're going a bit faster. It's very, very direct, very nimble steering, and it feels very nice. I've got it in Sport Plus at the moment, so you can feel every little you really feel like you're in control of the car, and you can feel everything you're going over, which on the roads around here may not be a good thing necessarily, but it just makes it that much easier to control the car because you know everything it's feeling. I could try and find somewhere to do a 0 to 60 launch. The quickest I've got is 4.9 in this car, which is weird because Hyundai state about 6-ish on there, but then again this does have a well, it does have an intake kit anyway, and stuff like that, so maybe that makes it better, but I didn't think it would make that much difference, but maybe it does, who knows. There isn't really much space around here to do a 0 to 60 launch, to be completely honest, so goody, what have we got here? Yeah, these roads are actually quite horrendous around here. But this is a perfectly nice chance to show you eco mode. It doesn't rev match in eco mode, the button does nothing, and I'm not sure if you can hear the exhaust, but if I mat it for a second, you'll hear a lot of turbo flutter and turbo whoosh, but you don't hear any exhaust really. It properly quietens it down, which is good for going through neighbourhoods at night time, at unsociable hours, as well as in, you know, if you're not just using it for eco, it's a quick button to quiet the car down if you're trying to not wake people up, which to be honest is what I use it for more than actually to get mileage, because I don't really care too much for that, to be honest. It's not what I bought the car for, and I don't expect much better than 22.9. So I don't use it too much for that. I use it to quieten the car down, because it makes a massive difference to the exhaust. If you stick it in M mode, you can immediately hear it gets much more aggressive, which is nicer for me, but maybe not for the neighbours. So yeah, it's nice that that's an option, switchable exhaust and stuff. I'm not sure, I assume all the other Golf R's and Civic Type R's all have that as well, but it's yeah, quite that's my forward warn system telling me I was about to hit that van, apparently, even though I was miles away from it. So not a flawless system. I guess it's, I think what it really does, it monitors your speed, and then it looks ahead of you, and it doesn't really know you're about to turn, obviously. So there, you know, you're going to have problems with things like that. And it does have an emergency stop thing as well, so it will say forward warn and beep at you for a couple seconds, and if you get too close, it will slam on the brakes and stop you in time, which sounds brilliant, and I'm sure it has saved a couple people. But the only time it has done it once for me, and that was going down my own road. I've got roads quite thin-ish, and people park on both sides, so you kind of have to slide through gaps and stuff, and it saw a car ahead of me in a gap I was going to go through and slammed on the brakes for me, which actually became much more terrifying than, you know, it made a situation out of nothing. So it can be a positive and negative. I'm sure it does more good than bad, but you do have to be careful when it says forward warn to slow down, otherwise it might start on slamming the brakes for you, which isn't very nice. It also does have an auto hold system. It's a little bit weird. It's not like other systems. I think it works because I don't have an electronic handbrake. It's a physical one. Good for handbrake turns, not so much good for the auto hold system, because it can't engage it when it wants to. I believe it works by just literally depressing the brake, meaning it only works on gradients above some certain percent. I don't know off the top of my head, but it means, but the biggest problem I found with that is it doesn't tell, there's no indicator on the screen as to when it is going to hold you, if you see what I mean, as to when the threshold has been passed. So if you're on a hill and you think it's going to hold you, you let off the brake. Sometimes it doesn't, and you start rolling back, which can be annoying. And then obviously other times when it is going, sometimes it's obvious when it's going to work because it's a properly steep hill and you just know it will. But it's more when it's you're not sure whether you've gone past the threshold, so you don't know whether it's going to hold you. So in a way, it kind of renders the system useless in that respect, because you end up using your handbrake anyway, just in case it isn't going to hold you and then you're going to roll back. So while it tries its best, I guess this, you know, the physical handbrake is limiting its system in a way there, and there's not really much we can do about that. To be honest, I'm not sure why this car does come with the traditional handbrake. I assume it's just because it was cheaper. But yeah, lovely junction this. But yeah, I think I've said everything I can think of for now. Hopefully, like I said, the video looks good to you guys and the audio has come out all right. So yeah, I think I will end this one here. Thank you for watching. Let me know if there's anything I should do different, and if you want to see more of these in the future. And I will see you in the next one.